You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter @RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to the last Wednesday episode of the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, except no imitation. I've got to start with a topic that I've avoided talking about, basically because it just made me too frustrated, sad, upset, whatever adjective you want to use. And that is the MLB Lockout. We had a bunch of mudslinging back and forth. We had bits and pieces of information coming out. I just hated talking about it. Every time someone asked me about it, I just get really morose. That's the only word for it. But it seemed like there was hope for a full season to happen. It seemed like both sides were coming close to an agreement. Major League Baseball pushed the deadline for canceling regular season games back to yesterday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. The league made their quote-unquote final and best offer to the Players Association. It really seemed like there was an avenue for a full season to be salvaged. But the Players Association unanimously declined the league's offer. Because of that, the first two regular season series for all teams have been canceled. 91 games in total have been canceled and probably won't be made up. Players most likely won't be paid for those games. The earliest that spring training can now start is March 12th. It is official. For the first time in 28 years, Major League Baseball will cancel games because of a labor dispute. There is no way to sugarcoat this. There's no way to spin it. This is an incredibly dark day for baseball. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, if both sides come together tomorrow, you're only missing 6, 7, or 8 games. It's not the end of the world. The baseball season's too long anyway. Major League Baseball can survive this. Well, firstly, the two sides are not going to come together anytime soon. They're going to keep negotiating. They kind of have to. But do you really think we're close to an agreement at this point? I don't. At the end of the day, it's clear that both sides, the owners and the players, don't care about anything but their own checkbooks. They don't give two you-know-whats about the fans. One of the best Michael Jackson songs is "They Don't Care About Us." Every fan that attends a Major League Baseball game for time immemorial should play that song as they're entering the stadium. Because what has been made clear all throughout this process is that neither side cares about the fans. We talk about this CBA proposal really benefits the owners. This CBA proposal really benefits the players. It's irrelevant. Fans are the lifeblood of baseball. We saw it in 2020. When you didn't have fans in the stands, it was really hard to get into baseball. There is no sport that is better to watch live compared to TV than baseball. Football, it's better to watch on TV. Basketball, you can watch it either way. You don't lose much. Same thing with hockey. Baseball is exponentially better to watch at a stadium rather than on your couch. That is why millions of people every year go to baseball games. It is why in 2021, when not everyone was vaccinated, fans risked it and went out to the ball game. People are saying that Major League Baseball can't survive without the players, and the players can't survive without the owners. Finish that thought. You're not necessarily wrong, but realize Major League Baseball and the players can't survive without the fans. If there's no interest in the games, there's not a lot of money coming in. TV ratings are down. Less people are at the games. They're not spending money on merchandise. They're not spending money on concessions. They're not spending money on parking. The seminal thing that Major League Baseball and the players can't do without is the fans. And both sides have made it clear all throughout this process that they don't care about the fans. We talk about the owners wanting sympathy for losing money, and you can't feel bad for billionaires. A lot of baseball players are millionaires. What do you think the net worth is of someone like Aaron Judge? Forget what's in his bank accounts. His car, his house. The guy's probably a millionaire. He hasn't gotten his big boy contract yet. I'm not even counting endorsements. I'll tell you this, one thing that has ticked me off is the fact that the Players Association is smelling like a rose. They should not come off smelling like a rose. I'm not saying that Major League Baseball is 100% in the right. They're not. But the Players Association is with some blame too. This supposed final and best offer to the players was very fair. Major League Baseball proposed a $700,000 minimum salary this year to go up by $40,000 in 2026. That's a raise. The 26th guy on the roster is getting a raise. Congratulations. The CBT thresholds were raised, although not by a lot, and I understand why the union would be upset about that. And I'll get into that in a minute. But in all fairness, they were increased. And one thing that's gotten lost is that Major League Baseball proposed eliminating draft pick forfeiture for teams that signed big free agents. For instance, if the Yankees signed Carlos Correa under the last CBA, they would have had to forfeit a draft pick. That has been a deterrent for some teams to go after big free agents. We've heard that from GMs before. Do we really want this guy? Or do we want to keep our draft pick and roll with someone else? We have heard that a million times before. If you eliminate that, you get more teams involved in bidding on guys like Correa and Kershaw and Castellanos and guys like that. Major League Baseball has accepted a pre-arbitration bonus pool. That wasn't a thing in the last CBA. That's designed to give players more money. The league could have very easily said, no, we're not accepting this. It's stupid. We don't get it. No. They've accepted it. Look, they're far apart on that, but at least they're willing to go that route. They want to address service time manipulation. They want to have a lottery. Major League Baseball is even okay with adding patches and helmet decals to add another revenue stream for owners and players. This type of stuff did not exist before. So the owners are willing to give the players some more money. Like, this is a very fair proposal by Major League Baseball. It's not perfect. There's no question about it. If you're a player, you have a right to be frustrated with this proposal. But what's the alternative? Miss games? Alienate the fans? Yes, the fans are widely against the owners. But how are they going to express that displeasure? By not going to the games, by not watching the games. That affects you also, stupid! Yes, Rob Manfred is presiding over the death of baseball as we know it. And he is, without question, one of the worst commissioners in sports history. But The Players Association is not a saint in all this. That's the thing. I have heard so many people cast the owners as the big bad wolf. The reality is the players are just as culpable. This proposal from Major League Baseball wasn't bad. It was not perfect. There are issues here. The CBT threshold should be higher. The pre-arbitration bonus pool, which I still have questions about, should be higher. But Major League Baseball offered a way to try to curb tanking. They offered a way to try to curb service time manipulation. They eliminated draft pick compensation in free agency. You can't overstate how big of a deal that is. You want to tell me for the owners, the biggest issue in pursuing superstar free agents is money? That may be true, but that draft pick forfeiture is a big deal also. Now, instead of a team being worried about getting worse in the future to get better today by signing a free agent, you can get better today and still keep your prospects. Still keep that pick. I don't want to come off as a total apologist for the owners. They have made huge mistakes. Namely, in electing someone who may be the worst thing to happen to baseball since the College of Coaches to be commissioner. Say what you want about Bud Selig, but he's Bowie Kuhn compared to this guy. Rob Manfred, ever since the Astros sign-stealing scandal became known, has proven to be untrustworthy, has proven to not be able to prioritize things as well as he should. He is a shill for the owners, doesn't care about the players. At the end of the day, the best commissioners are able to marry the interests of the owners and the players. He couldn't do it in 94, but that's because Donald Fear was Donald Fear. But since then, Selig did an excellent job of keeping the peace. He knew that baseball was on the decline in 95 and 96 and 97. That's why he turned a blind eye to steroids. And he really went out of his way to protect Major League Baseball and the players by extension from punishment. You never got the sense that Bud Selig didn't care about the players. You've never gotten the sense that David Stern and Adam Silver never cared about their players. You've never gotten the sense that Gary Bettman doesn't care about his players. Roger Goodell seems to have evolved as a commissioner. I feel like he cares more about the players than he used to. Rob Manfred doesn't. Rob Manfred goes, out of his way to belittle the players. From going out of his way to punish players for retaliating against the Astros, to orchestrating the 60-game joke that we got in 2020, to calling the World Series trophy a piece of metal, to laughing at the press conference yesterday. It is clear as day that Rob Manfred does not care about the players. He doesn't care about the Players Association. He just cares about the owners. I understand that at the end of the day, the 30 owners are his bosses, not the players. I get that. But you need to be able to marry the two together. Selig was able to. And part of the reason why Rob Manfred got the job as commissioner was because he was supposedly this great negotiator that helped Selig keep the peace for 20 years. This guy's running baseball into the ground. This guy does not care about the sport itself. This guy cares about making money and keeping the owners happy. That's it. That's literally it. And he is willing to sacrifice games and set baseball back immeasurably to have that happen. He has presided over a decline in quality of play. Baseball today is infinitely worse than it was 20 years ago. You have told my generation, the generation that grew up idolizing guys like Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens and Alex Rodriguez and guys like that they were cheaters, that they don't deserve to be in Cooperstown. You go out of your way to praise David Ortiz and say that this guy should not be harmed by the steroid allegations. You haven't said anything like that about Clemens, about Bonds, about A-Rod. Curt Schilling may be a jerk, but he has over 3,000 strikeouts. The guy has his freaking bloodstained sock in the Baseball Hall of Fame, but he doesn't get a plaque? Under Manfred, Major League Baseball has embraced gambling. Pete Rose, still not in the Hall of Fame. The hypocrisy is real. The lack of respect for the game's greats is real. This guy is nothing short of inept. He is clueless. He has run baseball into the ground. Major League Baseball is the third sport right now in this country behind football and basketball. When it comes back, it may be the fourth or fifth sport. I could see soccer overtaking Major League Baseball. Once you tick off the fans like this, it's incredibly tough to get them back. Here's the thing. The 2004 NHL Lockout, you never got the sense that both sides didn't care about the fans. That was the players staunchly opposing a salary cap. At the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with a salary cap. Players don't like it, but if you're sick and tired of seeing these marginal players like Andrew Heaney get vastly overpaid, how do you stop it? You implement a salary cap. The NFL lockout, I never got the sense that Goodell or DeMaurice Smith didn't care about the fans. The 2011 NBA lockout, I never got the sense that the NBA or the players didn't care about the fans. I truly believe that Rob Manfred and Tony Clark and the institutions that they run don't give two you-know-whats about the fans. And I know a lot of people that agree with me. And I'm going to have a really tough time going back to the games. If you don't value me, if you don't respect me, why should I give you my time and money? Both sides should be willing to walk away from the table a little unhappy for the benefit of the fans. At the end of the day, if the lockout had ended yesterday, we'd all be saying both sides came together to save baseball. They couldn't survive a shortened season. Interest is already down. They have an issue connecting with the younger generation. But both sides came together for the long-term viability of the product. Great job by both sides. I'd be singing Rob Manfred's praises right now. I'd be singing Tony Clark's praises right now. Instead, I'm killing both these idiots because they are putting money above the fans. I understand that it's a business. And the goal of every business is to make money. I get that. Totally get that. No argument here. But in the grand scheme of things, is it worth fighting over all this? Is it worth fighting over a $25,000 gap in minimum salary this year? Is it worth alienating the fans and maybe never getting them back? Is it worth a second shortened season in 3 years? Let me ask you something. Do you think this is it? Do you really think that both sides are going to come together sooner rather than later and say, we have a deal? We're going to play a 154-game season? I don't. More games are going to get lopped off. You're going to have arguments over how service time is calculated for this year. That's another hoop you have to jump through. I have no idea how many games we're going to get this year. I knew we were going to get a shortened season. Never once. Even this week when it looked like there was a light at the end of the tunnel, did I say that we were going to get a full season? The only thing that I said was, it seems like we're nearing a tipping point one way or the other. Well, I was right. I mean, one thing that you need to realize here, Rob Manfred has done a terrible job managing the optics here. And he may tell you that doesn't matter. No, it does. At the end of the day, fans still need to be willing to go out and spend money to support the teams. You can watch the games on TV. That's all well and good. But the second you go out to a baseball game and buy a hot dog and buy merchandise at the team store, you are benefiting the owners. Do you want to do that? There are fan bases that hate their owners. I hate Hal Steinbrenner, but I've never let that stand in the way of me spending money on the Yankees. But this, the owners in the league waiting over a month to formally negotiate, to electing someone who is more concerned about his checkbook than the fans to be the commissioner, to doing nothing to curb the decline in play that we've seen over the last 20 years. It's an inferior game now, folks. It just is. If you can't see that, shame on you. I just want nothing to do with these guys anymore, man. I'm just done. I'm going to have a real tough time getting into the Yankees this year. I mean, think about it. Major League Baseball is going to have a lot of competition. The NBA playoffs are going to get underway in a month and a half. The NHL playoffs are going to get underway in a couple months. I could really see a lot of people watching preseason football and soccer over Major League Baseball. This is a joke. This is an embarrassment. Shame on both sides. With that in mind, though, I fully understand why Tony Clark and the Players Association did not like this CBA. While it had some really good things for them, the CBT thresholds and the pre-art bonus pool are big issues that still need to be worked out. At the end of the day, Major League Baseball proposed a CBA that had the competitive balance tax thresholds, or luxury tax thresholds, at $220 million for this year, next year, and the year after. It went up to $224 in 2025, and it went up to $230 in 2026. The Players Association wants a CBT threshold this year of $238 million. So the Players Association's number for this year is more than the league's number for 2026. That's a huge issue. But the thing is, though, both sides are right here. The Players Association is right that is an insane ask for the CBT threshold to stay at $220 for 3 years. every other salary cap, and let's be honest, the CBT is a salary cap, goes up yearly. So for the CBT to stagnate at 220 for 3 years, yes, that is an insane ask. That's going to keep player salaries down. There's no question. But think about it from the owner's end of things. And I know that's hard. But a salary cap or a salary cap-like system is put in place to protect the owners from their own stupidity. There are some owners that are willing to spend right up to the luxury tax. So that means if they're like $10 million away from the luxury tax and they have a glaring hole at utility infielder or backup catcher or backup outfielder, whatever, there are some owners that would be willing to spend like $6, $7, $8 million on that bench player. Well, wait a second. Why are you paying that much money to someone willing to sit on the bench? That's insane. Salary caps work. The NFL has a hard salary cap. A lot of parity. The NHL has a hard salary cap. A lot of parity. The NBA has a soft salary cap. Not a lot of parity, but it's gotten better very recently. You can give them a little bit of a pass if you want, but I digress. Major League Baseball, since they instituted the luxury tax via the system that we all know and love today, have not had a repeat champion. The system was set up in 2003. No repeat champion since then. No repeat champion since 2001. So the system works. Okay, of course the Players Association wants it to be higher, but think about it this way. Last year, the threshold was $210 million. The Players Association is looking for a $28 million increase. That has never happened from one year to the next in the history of Major League Baseball. So when you think of it that way, a $10 million increase, stagnating there, is sort of kind of reasonable. There hasn't been a $10 million jump in the luxury tax from one year to the next since 2013 to 2014. You want to tell me it's unfair to stagnate the tax at 220? You want to tell me it's unfair for the owners to be greedy? The players are being greedy. $220 million isn't enough. Do you think that if the Players Association had countered Major League Baseball with $6 million increases every year, so it's 220 to 226 to 232 to 238 to 244, the league would have said no? I hope not. We'll never know. Because the Players Association wanted the luxury tax to start at 238, a $28 million increase. The players are being just as greedy as the owners. It is unreasonable for the league to expect the owners to agree to a stagnant luxury tax. But it is just as unreasonable to call the owners greedy while not saying that the players are greedy. The players are winning the PR war here. Once again, both sides are to blame. And this pre-arbitration bonus pool, which I still have questions about, you wanted to go to the top 30 pre-arbitration players based on WAR and awards. Oh, I'm gonna be sick. I'm gonna vomit. I'm okay with using awards to quantify that, but WAR? WAR is a useless stat. And which WAR are you using? One site's WAR is different from the next site's WAR. WAR is a flawed stat. Statistics by nature are empirical. They have to be to take them seriously. No matter which website you go on, Shohei Ohtani still hit 257 with 46 home runs and 100 RBIs. He had a 372 on base percentage and a 592 slugging percentage. But his 4.9 WAR, according to Baseball Reference, can deviate on other websites. WAR is a flawed stat. To use WAR to determine player greatness is absurd. I know a lot of people do it. They're lazy. It's wrong. WAR is a flawed statistic. We talk about wins being a flawed statistic. WAR is exponentially more flawed than wins. The number of wins that a pitcher has is empirical. WAR isn't. By nature, it has to be more flawed. Use your noodle. Like, we're talking about a $55 million gap between the league and the Players Association for that pre-arb bonus pool. I'll be honest with you. I'm not in favor of it. If you want to do something like that, you've got to change how you quantify it. You want to quantify it with awards? I'm fine with that. If you want to have the writers vote for the top 30 best pre-arb players in any given year, I'm fine with that. But to use WAR, it's wrong. So yeah, there's a big gap between 30 mil and 85 mil. There's no question about that. I see both sides of that, but I'm more concerned with how you're quantifying that pool. So before we talk about money, let's talk about how we're setting up the pool. That's the thing. Look, will this result in the death of Major League Baseball as we know it? I don't know. I don't think it's an unreasonable thing to say, which is scary if you stop and think about it. But there were people saying in 2005 that the NHL wouldn't survive their canceled season. They're doing all right. And at the end of the day, I'll say this. If the lockout results in 20, 30, 40, 50, even 60 games canceled per team, that's not the end of the world. In 1981, all teams played anywhere from 100 to 110 games. Baseball survived it. The thing is, now that the floodgates are open, can you close them? If you only miss 20 or so games, okay. You can live with that. But once you go much further than that, it's going to get tougher and tougher to get those fans back. I mean, it would be tough to get the fans back on a 154-game season if the lockout was resolved tomorrow, but it wouldn't be impossible. At the end of the day, fans still need something to do in July and August. And if you're not into any given NHL or NBA playoff series, you need something to do in April, May, and June. You may say soccer can fill that void. The thing is, soccer isn't played every day of the week. So on those off days, you need something to do. Turn on a Yankees game. Turn on a Mets game. I mean, the thing is, during the 3 months that we didn't have sports in 2020, a lot of people found new interests. I got really into old movies. I'll tell you what's on my DVR right now. And it's not that I haven't seen all these movies. I just love them so much that I'm okay with watching them again. The Stratton Story, Cool Hand Luke, Taxi Driver, Rebel Without a Cause, All About Eve, some great movies. 3 years ago, I had never heard of some of those movies. This lack of baseball will result in baseball fans finding new interests. And once people get invested in those interests, it's very difficult to get them back. I will tell you, there have been nights where sports have been on, but I haven't watched them in favor of watching old movies. Baseball is playing a really dangerous game right now. When you lose these fans, it's going to be really hard to get them back. Realize you don't have steroids to help you. Yay, juiced baseballs again. This whole thing is a joke. If I could leave you with anything, it would be this. Shame on Rob Manfred and Tony Clark. Both of them deserve equal portions of the blame. I'll close this show out with some NFL Vault talk. And I'll start with the Giants cutting Kyle Rudolph. After just 1 year with the G-Men, Rudolph has been cut. The Giants saved $5 million by cutting him. And it makes sense to cut Rudolph. I understand that there are a lot of Giants fans that are sick of Evan Engram. I'm not an Engram fan either. But Kyle Rudolph wasn't any better. He had only 26 catches for 257 yards and a touchdown. Has never been a great blocker. Once upon a time, he was a really good tight end. He's made 2 Pro Bowls in his career, but he's 32. The Giants are in cap hell right now. They saved $5 million by cutting him. It makes a lot of sense. Good job by Joe Schoen. They also cut Devontae Booker. And it makes sense to cut Booker. They'll save just over $2 million in cap room. Even with those two moves, saving over $7 million against the cap, the Giants are still $6.5 million over the cap, according to overthecap.com. They've got a lot of work to do, because they have a ton of holes to address. You want to tell me they're not going to be aggressive in free agency? They're going to look to build through the draft? Okay, I have no issue with that. That's how the Giants won their Super Bowls, but realize you still need to sign those draft picks. And free agency can certainly help to bolster the roster. I mean, Devontae Booker had a good year. He averaged just over 4 yards a carry, had just under 600 rushing yards on the year, only 2 touchdowns, which I don't like, but he did set a career high in catches with 40, had 268 receiving yards and a touchdown. He actually had identical stats to Saquon Barkley. He had the same number of rushing yards in fewer attempts for whatever it's worth, but Barkley beats him in yards per game. They both had 2 touchdowns. Barkley had 1 more catch. Booker had 5 more receiving yards. Barkley had 1 more receiving touchdown. Booker was a good backup running back to Barkley. I understand that you've got to save money if you're Joe Schoen, and a guy like Booker is replaceable. If you hit in the draft on a running back, that's all well and good. The thing is, though, running back is a need for the Giants. I like Saquon Barkley. I really do. I'm not at the point where I would just cut my losses and get rid of him. I understand that the Giants saved no money by cutting him, but I wouldn't give him away for a ham sandwich either. The thing is, though, ever since he suffered that ACL injury against the Bears a couple seasons ago, he has been a shell of his former self. Had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons to start his career. Looked like he was going to be the best running back in Giants history. Then he gets hurt in 2020, misses 4 games last year, and ends up with under 4 yards per carry, under 600 rushing yards this year, just over 850 scrimmage yards this year. There is a real question going around. Should the Giants trade Saquon Barkley? It would save the Giants a lot of money. Over $7 million if they traded Barkley. But what would you get for him? You're not getting anything big. Maybe a 3rd rounder if I'm being generous. Even then that seems high. So is it worth trading Barkley for pennies on the dollar as opposed to letting Brian Daboll work with him? I think Daboll can work wonders with Barkley. Mike Kafka, the Giants' offensive coordinator, could work wonders with Barkley. DeAndre Smith, longtime college running back coach, now Giants running back coach, I think can work wonders with Barkley. The Giants have a great coaching staff in place. Let me tell you. We know that Saquon Barkley has talent. He was just hampered the past couple years by injuries, Jason Garrett, and Joe Judge. I'd have no problem whatsoever with the Giants rolling with Barkley. I'm not going to give up on someone who's 25 years old, made a Pro Bowl his rookie season, won Rookie of the Year, and started his career with back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. The one thing I would do is move on from Daniel Jones, because he has shown nothing in his 3 years in the NFL. Sure, he has some good moments, no question, but what has he ever shown you to make you think that he can be the quarterback for a playoff team? I know there are a lot of Giants fans that want to see what Daboll and Kafka can do with Jones. I don't get that. Barkley, it makes sense. Barkley has talent. I don't think Daniel Jones has a lot of talent. Talent wins over scheme in the NFL. All in all, cutting Rudolph and Booker makes sense for the Giants. I do expect them to draft a running back in day 2 with the 67th overall pick, a guy like Kenneth Walker III out of Michigan State, or Breece Hall out of Iowa State would make a ton of sense. And I'm okay with the Giants sticking with Barkley. If they want to trade him to clear up cap, I'm fine with that too. But please, 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 get rid of Daniel Jones. I'm not saying this as a Giants hater. I'm saying this as an NFL fan. You're not going to win anything with Daniel Jones as your quarterback. The last thing to talk about today is the Cardinals locking up Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim through the 2027 season. We had heard some rumors that Kingsbury could be on the hot seat. Now his seat is as cool as it can possibly be. It's kind of interesting that Kingsbury and Keim got locked up for 6 more seasons. I mean, what has Cliff Kingsbury done to warrant being the Cardinals coach for the next 6 years? I understand that the Cardinals got to the playoffs last year. They were a really good team. They went 11-6, but they also got creamed by the Rams in the wild card game, 34-11. It was the cherry on top of another second half collapse by a Cliff Kingsbury-led team. And Steve Keim, I think, is a good GM. I think he'd be out of a job for 2 seconds if he was to ever hit the open market. I understand that he made a really bad mistake by drafting Josh Rosen. But look, the Cardinals got Kyler Murray. All's well that ends well. The thing is, though, it may not end well with Kyler Murray. The Cardinals are doubling down on their current hierarchy. It makes sense for them to double down on Keim. I'm fine with that. Kingsbury, I don't mind keeping him around, but through 2027 is a long commitment. I don't think he deserves that, but he's another guy who would be out of a job for 2 seconds. So I understand wanting to keep him around, and I understand wanting to keep the GM and head coach on the same timeline. But what's going to happen with Kyler Murray? Is Murray sick of Kingsbury? Is Murray sick of Keim? Is he sick of both of them? I don't know. That statement that his agent put out the other day didn't paint the Cardinals in a good light. Now that the Cardinals owner, Michael Bidwill, has doubled down on this hierarchy, the ball is in Murray's court. Will he play out his current contract? Or will he sign a big extension? We don't know exactly what the Cardinals have offered Murray. Maybe it is incredibly unreasonable. I don't know. But there have been rumors of discontent between Murray and the Cardinals. Maybe this exacerbates the discontent even more. I don't know. Look, I think Murray will be a Cardinal long term, but I can't say that with 100% confidence. Maybe 90 to 95% confidence, not 100. And I'll say this again, and I got some heat for this. If the Cardinals are open to trading Kyler Murray, I want him on the Jets. Zach Wilson, 4-10 for Murray. I would do that in a heartbeat. I love Zach Wilson. I think he's going to be a great quarterback in this league. But do I know that for 100%? No, I don't. I know for a fact that Kyler Murray can be a great quarterback in the NFL for the next 10 years. And what did we learn from the Rams? If you have the opportunity to upgrade at quarterback, you need to take it. You can't tell me that Kyler Murray wouldn't be an upgrade over Zach Wilson. Even 5 years down the line, I don't think you'll be able to say that. Wilson may be in that same tier as Murray, but will he ever be better? I don't know. Probably not. This isn't a knock on Wilson. It's a compliment to Murray. He's made 2 straight Pro Bowls. Made the playoffs this year. Now that he got those jitters out of his system, hopefully he improves. He's going to be 25 before the season starts. I'm not saying the Cardinals are open to moving Murray. I don't think they are. But I would mortgage the future for Kyler Murray. Players like him do not become available very often. Generational young talent at the quarterback position. Every team in the NFL just about should be in on Kyler Murray. Until tomorrow, I'm Jacob Valk, and always remember, if you disagree with me, you're wrong.